Hi folks, welcome back to Fireflower Herbal. It's been a while. We are just heading into spring here in Wales. It's the end of February, we're charging towards spring equinox. It's just starting to get a little bit warmer and we're going to go out and find a plant that I was looking for all last year in a moment. So last year I had this idea that I was going to do a whole series on the 9 herbs charm. We'll talk about that in a second. But I spent ages trying to find the different plants that were in the 9 herbs charm, and I found all of them. I knew where most of them were, but apart from one, which I couldn't find. And then this morning when I was out walking, I saw it everywhere. And if any of you at the beginning of your plant finding journey, this is a thing. Quite often when you're looking for plants, they won't turn up until they're ready to be seen. Okay, so just be aware of that. So before we go and find it, let's talk a little bit about the 9 herbs charm and what it is. So the 9 herbs charm is a really old Anglo-Saxon spell, but also a recipe as well. It's to protect against poison. So it's got obviously 9 different plants in it, and all these plants are to treat poison and infection and things like that. And quite interestingly as well, we think in our modern interpretation that to treat cancer as well. Okay, so we're going to do a whole series on this. We'll do it throughout the year. We'll find the different plants as the year goes on. Now, what I found last year when I was looking for the different plants is they're not all out at one time. They all sort of come out at the different times of the year. So I suspect that this particular recipe was not something that was done all in one go. I suspect that this was something that was done where you collected the plants throughout the year, and then you did you made the recipe and with the spell that goes along with it, and you would have done it at a particular time of year, probably when the moon or the planets were in a favourable aspect, to make it its most potent. So I thought that was quite interesting. So we'll go and have a little walk now. Obviously with something like an Anglo-Saxon charm, we've got the names, the folk names of the plants at the time, which is slightly open to interpretation. So we don't know for definite what these plants would have been, but we've got a good idea. So I've looked at different interpretations, and most of the sites that I've read seem to agree on the interpretation of most of the plants. There's some they're not quite sure of. This one, I'll show you the plant that they most likely think that it is, and then I'll show you another one which potentially I think it could also be. So we'll go and have a little look now and see what we can find. Okay folks, so you're gonna have to excuse the background noise because we're right near a road. This is hairy bittercress, and I've spotted loads of it this morning, kind of just growing out of the cracks in the pavement and things like that. So you can see this kind of spiral shape to it, and these kind of like white flowers here. This is part of the brassica family. Like a lot of other cresses and bitter cresses, it's got like a slightly spicy bitter taste to it. Okay, and really interestingly to me, the brassica family contains glucosinolates, which potentially can protect against cancer. Now, why that's interesting to me is because our Anglo-Saxon friends wouldn't have known what cancer was, but they definitely would have understood it as a poison. Let's go find some other examples. Let's see if we can find some other little bits of hairy bittercress lying about. So this is really funny folks, as I've come out again to try and find this plant with the camera, it's almost decided to try and hide from me again, which is both hilarious and very frustrating. But here we go, we've got another example of it here. So we talked about obviously the glucosinolates, which potentially remove carcinogens. Other traditional uses of this would be for digestive problems, respiratory ailments, and also, as well as the glucosinolates, it contains magnesium and sulfur compounds. Now these have a drawing effect, so when we're talking about like treating poison or infection, that drawing effect could potentially draw those out if you did have a bite or something like that. So I'm just going to read the section from the 9 Herbs Charm for you. So in the 9 Herbs Charm, it's called Stune. So Stune is the name of this herb. It grew on a stone. It stands up against poison. It dashes against poison. It drives out the hostile one. It casts out poison. This is the herb that fought against the snake. It has the power against poison. It has the power against infection. It has the power against the loathsome foe roving through the land. So as we said, this is what we think Stune is, but I'm going to try and find the other plant which I potentially think Stune could be. Okay folks, again you're going to have to excuse the noise behind me. So this is the other plant that I think potentially could be Stune. This is shepherd's purse. And again, this is another one from the brassica family, and it's really, really similar to the hairy bittercress. The main difference is, and I don't know if you can see this, but these like little heart-shaped purses on it. And just like the hairy bittercress, this grows in the pavements, in the cracks, and just like the hairy bittercress would be labelled as a weed. Now, I'm not a big fan of the label weed because it's often given to plants that are extremely useful to us as humans and would have been our plant allies. So then you have to wonder, well, is that a very intentional othering of plants that would be useful to us? And I think it is. And I think knowing the medicinal remedies that grow in your area and around where you live, and learning how to use them, and learning how to be friends with them, is a massively radical act of resistance. So it's definitely worth getting out there and getting to know your plants. I have pulled this. I am going to pop this back into the ground. Okay, so I pulled it because it's just the details on it are too small to get on the camera otherwise, but I am going to pop this back into the ground. Okay, so that is that's shepherd's purse, and being from the same family, of course, again it's got those pulling effects, those drawing effects, those glycosinolates, again as anti-cancer properties. But one of the most important things to know about shepherd's purse is it's a really potent styptic, and that means that it stops bleeding. And this can be used to stop hemorrhaging, internal hemorrhaging. Now, obviously, if you've got somebody that's hemorrhaging, you know, in real life, call an ambulance. But it wouldn't hurt to give them shepherd's purse while you're waiting. Okay, so this would have been a massively important herb to have known in Anglo-Saxon times. Okay, so that's definitely one to look out for. So I hope you've enjoyed this little video today. We're going to explore the 9 Herb Charm throughout the year. So as the different plants come up, we'll look for the different plants and we'll explore the folklore and the uses behind them. So I look forward to seeing you the rest of the year. See you on the next one.